Imagine this for a moment. The people who capture our attention the most are never the ones who are completely predictable. Think about it. The ones you find yourself thinking about late at night, the ones who make you check your phone a little too often, are usually the ones who leave just a bit of mystery. That small gap between what you know and what you don't know, that's what keeps your mind busy. And when it comes to attraction, this principle is powerful. If you want a woman to worry about you, to truly think about you when you're not around, you have to learn how to create just enough emotional uncertainty to stay on her mind. Now, let's be clear, I'm not talking about playing toxic games or being disrespectful. I'm talking about understanding human psychology. Human beings are naturally drawn to what feels slightly out of reach. When something is too easy to figure out, too available all the time, the curiosity dies. But when there's an element of unpredictability, the mind starts to wander. She begins to ask herself questions. Where is he right now? Why hasn't he texted back yet? What's he up to? And those questions keep you present in her thoughts long after you've left the room. The mistake a lot of men make is being overly eager in the beginning. You meet a woman you're attracted to, and suddenly you want to be in constant communication, replying instantly, always initiating, never leaving any space. At first, she might appreciate the attention, but eventually, what was once exciting becomes predictable. And when you become predictable, you become forgettable. That's the last thing you want. What you need to do instead is introduce just a little bit of unpredictability into the dynamic. Let her experience your presence, but also let her feel your absence. Don't always be available the second she calls or texts. Don't always drop everything to see her. Show her that you have your own life, your own priorities, your own world that she is being invited into, but not handed on a silver platter. That's how you create the emotional space that makes her worry about you. Think of it like a story. The best novels, the most gripping movies, are the ones that keep you guessing. They give you just enough to stay invested, but never the whole picture all at once. If the ending is revealed too soon, there's no thrill, no anticipation. Your interactions should work the same way. Give her moments of connection, moments where she feels your presence deeply. But then step back and let her wonder what's going on in your world when you're not right there. This doesn't mean disappearing or ignoring her completely. It means being intentional. Maybe one evening you choose not to answer right away because you're genuinely busy working on yourself, spending time with your friends, or focusing on your goals. She'll notice, she'll start to wonder why your attention isn't on her every second, and that wondering builds tension. That tension is where attraction grows. And here's the beautiful thing: when you create that little bit of uncertainty, she starts to value the moments she does have with you more. Your words carry more weight. Your presence feels more smortial because it's not something she can take for granted. If every time she calls you answer, and every time she texts you respond instantly, your presence loses its value. But if she's not quite sure what you're doing or how much time she'll get with you, every moment becomes precious. This is also where self-control comes into play. It's not easy to hold back when you really like someone. You want to share, to talk, to be there all the time. But discipline is what separates men who are remembered from men who are forgotten. The ability to pull back just enough to give her room to feel your absence shows strength. And strength is attractive. Remember, your goal isn't to make her anxious or insecure. Your goal is to spark curiosity, to keep her engaged emotionally even when you're not in front of her. That balance between availability and mystery is what keeps her thinking about you when she lays her head down at night. She'll replay your words, your smile, the way you made her feel, and then wonder when she'll get that again. That wondering is powerful. When you create emotional uncertainty the right way, you're not just making her worry about you, you're making her invest in you. She starts to think about how to keep your attention, how to hold on to what you bring into her life. And that's when you know you've shifted the dynamic. She's not just enjoying your presence, she's actively working to secure it. The truth is simple: predictability kills excitement, but mystery keeps desire alive. If you can master the art of being present yet slightly unpredictable, you'll never be far from her thoughts. That's how you make her worry about you. Let me ask you something: what happens when you walk into a room and every eye naturally shifts toward you? Not because of how you look, not because of what you're wearing, but because of the energy you carry. That presence, that quiet strength, comes from independence and purpose. And if you want a woman to think about you, to worry about losing you, this is one of the most important qualities you must develop: See, women are drawn to men who live for something bigger than them. They respect men who have direction, goals, and a life that's not centered entirely around a relationship. When you make her the sole focus of your world, you may think you're showing love and devotion, but in reality, you're sending the opposite message. You're telling her that without her, you have no purpose, and deep down, that doesn't inspire attraction. It kills it. Think about the type of men who are remembered. The ones who are admired, they're not sitting around waiting for someone to validate their existence. They're out there creating, building, growing, chasing a dream that excites them. That passion is magnetic. It makes people want to be close to them, to understand what fuels them, and it creates an aura of value. A woman looks at a man like that and immediately knows she has to put in effort to be part of his world. Independence doesn't mean shutting her out or acting like you don't care. It means you're whole by yourself. You can love her deeply, but your identity doesn't depend on her presence. You're a man with his own rhythm, his own direction, his own fire burning inside. And when she sees that, she starts to wonder, if I wasn't here, he'd still be thriving. He'd still be happy. He'd still be moving forward. That realization creates a subtle fear in her mind, a worry about losing someone who is already complete. Now, here's the trap so many fall into. The moment a woman shows interest, they start rearranging their entire lives around her. They cancel their plans, they neglect their goals, they forget their own priorities. At first, it feels good to her, who doesn't enjoy attention, but over time, it strips away the very attraction that brought her close in the first place. Why? Because you've shown her that your purpose is not yourself, not your mission, but her. And no one wants the burden of being someone else's entire reason for living. Instead, hold firm in your independence. Keep chasing the things that excite you. Go to the gym, build your business, improve your skills, spend time with your friends, grow spiritually, mentally, financially. Let her see that your life is rich and fulfilling with or without her. That's not neglect, it's respect. Because when she realizes that your attention is a choice, not a necessity, she values it more. She knows that when you spend time with her, it's because you want to, not because you need to. And that distinction makes all the difference. Purpose is what sets a man apart. A man without purpose drifts. He becomes needy, insecure, and overly dependent on validation. But a man with purpose, he's steady, focused, and grounded. He doesn't chase, he attracts. He doesn't beg, he inspires. That's the kind of man who lingers in a woman's mind long after he's gone. And let me tell you this, when a woman meets a man like that, she can't help but worry. She worries about who else might notice his value. She worries about how to keep his attention. She worries about what her place in his big, exciting life will be. That worry isn't destructive. It's what keeps her engaged, invested, and eager to hold on. So how do you cultivate that independence and purpose? Start by asking yourself, what drives you? What wakes you up in the morning? What keeps you up at night because you're so passionate about it? If you don't know, that's your work right now. Find it. Because when you're living for something that excites you, everything else, including your relationships, falls into place more naturally. Don't hand over your entire identity to a relationship. Share your journey, yes. Let her walk beside you, absolutely. But don't stop walking your path. Don't stop climbing your mountain. That climb is what gives you strength, and it's the very thing that makes you irresistible. She doesn't want to be the mountain. She wants to join the man who has the courage to climb it. The most powerful position you can put yourself in is this: being with someone because you choose to, not because you need to. That's when she knows she has a man of value in her life. A man who can stand tall on his own, but allows her to stand beside him. And the moment she feels that strength, that independence, that unshakable sense of purpose, she'll start to worry. Not because you've done anything wrong, but because she knows she's found someone she cannot afford to lose. That's how you make her worry about you. Have you ever noticed that the things we crave the most are the ones we don't always get right away? Think about your favorite food, your favorite movie, even your favorite song. If you had unlimited access to it every single moment of the day, the excitement would fade. It wouldn't feel special anymore. But when there's a little space, when there's anticipation, when you finally get it after waiting, it feels different, doesn't it? The same principle applies when it comes to attraction. If you want a woman to think about you, to worry about you, you have to master the art of controlled attention. Most men don't understand this. They believe the more attention they give, the more love they'll receive in return. So they pour it on endlessly, texting every hour, calling constantly, always initiating, always available, and at first it feels good to her. She enjoys the validation, she feels special. But over time, that flood of attention loses its impact. It becomes expected, predictable. And once something becomes predictable, it stops being exciting. Controlled attention means being intentional with when and how you give your time and energy. It's about creating a rhythm, sometimes close, sometimes a little distant. When you lean in and then pull back strategically, you give her a chance to feel your absence, to miss you, to think about you. That space makes the moments of connection more powerful because they're not guaranteed. They're not something she can take for granted. Let me give you an example. Imagine you send her a thoughtful message, something that shows you were really paying attention to what she said the day before. She reads it, she smiles, she feels special. But instead of continuing to send 10 more messages that same hour, you let it breathe. You go about your day, focus on your own priorities, and let her sit with that feeling. Now, while you're busy, her mind starts to wander. She rereads your message, she wonders what you're doing, she thinks about when she'll hear from you again. That's controlled attention at work. It amplifies the impact of the little things because you're not flooding her with them. The truth is, scarcity creates value. If something is always available, it loses its shine. If something is rare, people treasure it. Your attention works the same way. When you give it too freely, it stops meaning much. But when you give it deliberately, when you let there be pauses, it becomes precious. She knows when she has your focus, it's real, and that makes her hold on to it tighter. Now, this doesn't mean you should play games or manipulate. It's not about ignoring her on purpose or being cold. It's about balance. Too much attention suffocates, too little creates distance. But the right amount, offered in moments where she truly feels seen, keeps her hooked. It makes her crave more. It's that craving that makes her worry about you when you're not around. Think of it like breathing. Inhale, exhale. You can't just inhale endlessly and you can't just exhale endlessly. There has to be a rhythm. Relationships work the same way. Connection, then space. Attention, then pause. That rhythm keeps things alive. It builds tension, it creates anticipation, and anticipation is one of the most powerful drivers of attraction. When you control your attention, you also communicate something deeper about yourself. You show discipline. You show that you're not desperate, that you don't need to be glued to her every second. You demonstrate that your time has value, and that makes her respect you more. Respect and attraction go hand in hand. A man who can't control himself, who gives away all his energy without thought, loses respect. But a man who is intentional with his presence gains it. Here's another thing. Women notice when you don't overdo it. They may not say it out loud, but they feel it. They notice the man who listens deeply during a conversation, makes her laugh, shares his world, and then goes about his life without clinging. That man lingers in her mind. She replays his words. She feels the contrast between his presence and his absence. And she wonders when she'll get that energy again. Controlled attention also makes you stand out. In a world where most men are competing by giving too much, being the one who gives just enough, just the right amount, makes you rare. And remember, rarity breeds value. You don't have to chase, you don't have to beg. By mastering this balance, you naturally pull her closer. So what happens when you get this right? She starts to notice the difference between you and everyone else. She starts to realize that your attention isn't something she can demand, it's something you choose to give. And because it's a choice, she treasures it. That's when the worry begins to set in, not in a destructive way, but in a way that keeps her invested. She worries about losing your focus, about missing those moments of connection, about being left out of the world you create when you give her your presence. It's not the constant flood of attention that makes someone unforgettable. It's the way you make them feel in those controlled, intentional moments. It's the way you leave a little space for them to miss you, to crave you, to replay you in their mind. That's the kind of attention that lingers. That's the kind of attention that makes her worry about you. That's how you make her worry about you. Let me ask you this. What kind of man lingers in someone's memory long after he's gone? Is it the man who bends over backward trying to please, who changes himself just to fit in, who avoids standing firm because he's afraid of being disliked? Or is it the man who knows who he is, who walks with confidence, who speaks with conviction, and who never compromises his self-respect? The answer is obvious. We are drawn to strength. We remember confidence. And if you want a woman to think about you, to worry about you, then you must build value and confidence in yourself until it radiates from every part of who you are. Confidence is not arrogance. It's not about being loud, pushy, or showing off. Confidence is quiet power. It's the way you carry yourself, the way you look people in the eye when you speak, the way you hold your ground when you believe in something. It's that unshakable energy that says, I know who I am, and I don't need to prove it to anyone. That kind of confidence doesn't just attract attention, it demands it. When a woman encounters a man who is confident in himself, she feels it immediately. It changes the way she interacts with him. She's intrigued because confidence is rare. Most people are unsure of themselves, constantly second-guessing, constantly seeking validation. But a man who doesn't need validation, that man is magnetic. He's the one she thinks about when she's alone because he stands out in a world where most people blend in. But confidence doesn't exist in a vacuum. It comes from value, and value is something you build over time by becoming a man of substance. That means taking care of yourself physically, mentally, emotionally, and financially. It means having standards, knowing what you will and will not accept in your life. It means having the courage to walk away from situations that don't serve you, even if it's hard. That's what creates real self-respect. Self-respect is at the core of attraction. If you don't respect yourself, no one else will. If you tolerate disrespect, if you let people walk all over you, if you compromise your integrity just to keep someone close, you lose the very thing that makes you valuable. But when you draw boundaries, when you say no without guilt, when you refuse to lower your standards, you send a powerful message. I am a man worth respecting. And that makes her pay attention. That makes her worry. The man who is confident and valuable doesn't chase. He attracts. He doesn't beg, he inspires. He doesn't need to talk about what he's worth because his actions show it. When he walks into a room, people notice. When he speaks, people listen. And when he leaves, people remember. That's the kind of man a woman cannot forget. That's the kind of man who keeps her thinking, even when he's not around. Building confidence also requires facing fear. Most men let fear control them. Fear of rejection, fear of failure, fear of not being enough. But the confident man understands that fear is part of growth. He faces it head on, and each time he does, he becomes stronger. That strength shows in the way he carries himself, and it's impossible to ignore. A woman will see it, feel it, and wonder how you became that way. That wondering keeps you on her mind. And here's something important. Confidence is not about perfection. You don't need to have everything figured out. You don't need to be flawless. In fact, confidence often shines through in the way you handle your flaws. The man who laughs at his mistakes instead of hiding them, who admits when he doesn't know something instead of pretending, who stays calm when things go wrong. That man shows a level of security most people never reach. That's real confidence, and it's incredibly attractive. When you combine confidence with value, you create an energy that makes people feel lucky just to be around you. A woman who meets a man like that will naturally start to worry. Not because you've done anything wrong, but because she realizes she's found something rare. She knows that if she doesn't value you, someone else will. She knows that if she doesn't respect your presence, you won't hesitate to walk away. And that thought keeps her invested. The secret to making her worry about you isn't about manipulation or games. It's about becoming the kind of man whose presence is valuable, whose confidence is undeniable, and whose self-respect is unshakable. That man doesn't have to try to make someone think about him. They just do. They can't help it. Because value and confidence are unforgettable. That's how you make her worry about you.